kailangan ko pa lumipad. Hindi, bakit? Bakit hindi?
Can you tone that thing down? I'm studying.
Okay.
Lolo, are you okay? You must have worn those slippers again. Call an ambulance.
What ambulance? It's just those slippers.
Lolo passed out. Now call an ambulance.
Tom and TP sent their Lola to the hospital. Upon the arrival of their parents, they were told that their Lola suffered from a cerebral vascular accident, an ischemic one. The two were asked to go home and get some clothes for their Lola, for he will be admitted in the hospital.
What's cerebral vascular accident?
Well, with normal people like you, we call it stroke. No, seriously, it's stroke.
Yeah, so what happens to the heart then? A second ago, Lola was just there sitting, and a second after, we were already rushing him to the hospital.
Well, kiddo, it's not in the heart. It's in the brain. It happens when blood flow to the brain stops because an artery is blocked.
Oh yeah, I know what an artery is. A for away from the heart. So why was the artery blocked?
Well, from blood clots maybe. Some may have lodged on Lola's cerebral artery from other parts of the body, or some may have already developed there.
Why?
Seriously, you want to know this?
Why do you even think I'm asking?
Okay then, buckle up cause it's gonna be a long ride.
No worries. Already buckled up, Doc?
Before learning about stroke and other brain problems, you should first learn about the normal physiology of the brain.
Physiology?
Functioning. Normal functioning of the brain. So here are the things you are going to learn today, little girl. Under cerebral circulation and neuroprotection, we'll learn about the brain's blood supply, its cerebral blood flow regulation, which includes both local and neural factors, the cerebrospinal fluid system, the Monroe-Kelly hypothesis, and its clinical correlation. Under normal conditions, the brain is an organ which is 2% of the total body weight. It receives 15% of the resting cardiac output. Constant blood supply to the brain is provided by 4 sources. This includes the 2 internal carotid arteries, the 2 vertebral arteries which all forms the circle of Willis. This provides a continuous supply of blood to the brain. If one of these arteries supplying the circle is blocked or narrowed, blood flow from the other blood vessels can often preserve the cerebral perfusion well enough to avoid symptoms of ischemia. The veins, on the other hand, are thin-walled and bulbless. They all drain to the internal jugular vein to the heart.
Internal what?
You can ask questions later. And because the brain is an organ which is least tolerant to ischemia, its blood supply must be regulated. Cerebral blood flow is regulated by neural and local factors. Any interruption to cerebral blood flow leads to loss of consciousness. Ischemia, lasting for a few minutes, results in irreversible tissue damage. Local factors include regional brain activity and metabolic factors. Neural factors, on the other hand, include autonomic innervation. Sympathetic control, however, is weak. The same is true with parasympathetic stimulation, leading to weak vasodilatory response.
Huh?
Don't worry, I'll give an example. For the local factors, with regards to brain activity, there is increase in cerebral blood flow to the parts of the brain with increased activity. For example, remember when Lolo was playing the piano when we were little? When he uses his left hand, there is an increased activity on the right brain. So when there is an increase in brain activity, there is an increase in metabolic factors which are byproducts of the process. Increase in brain activity leads to increased metabolism on the area, increasing carbon dioxide, hydrogen ions, and adenosine, which all will cause the cerebral arteries to dilate, because they sense the need of the brain for more oxygen. However, if your brain senses too much oxygen being delivered to it, the cerebral arteries will compensate by constriction. However, decrease in oxygen concentration and increase in perivascular potassium will cause vessels to dilate. In summary, increase in carbon dioxide, potassium, hydrogen ions, and adenosine, and a decrease in oxygen will cause vasodilation. Increase in oxygen, however, will cause vasoconstriction. Other than the cerebral circulation, did you know that the brain has cerebrospinal fluid system which also protects it?
Oh, what does it do?
The cerebrospinal fluid cushions the brain within its solid vault, which is the skull. Example, if you were hit by a bat on the head, the effect will be on the opposite part of the brain. This is the counter-coup mechanism. The cerebrospinal fluid, like the blood, also needs replenishing. It is formed in the choroid plexus. It flows out of the choroid plexus and across the blood-brain barrier to enter the ventricles, then exits the brain. It's a cycle. Any interruption will cause problems which can affect brain function.
What problem?
We'll get to that later. So now, we've talked about the cerebral blood flow and the cerebrospinal fluid system. These two, plus the brain matter itself, are the major constituents which form the intracranial volume. Intracranial volume is equal to blood, the cerebrospinal fluid, and the brain. The intracranial volume is constant. An increase in any of these must be offset by an equal decrease in another. This is the Monroe-Kelly hypothesis. Looks like we're home, little girl. Let's go.
That's it?
We need to get clothes.
Immediately after getting clothes for their Lola, Tom and TP went back to the hospital. In the hospital, before Tom and TP could get to the neuro ICU, they passed by the neuro ward. She saw a child with an abnormally big head. She then asked her kuya,
Kuya, look at that patient in bed 4. The one with the really big head.
TP, it's impolite to stare. TP, that child has hydrocephalus.
Hydrocephalus?
Remember cerebrospinal fluid I was telling you about? Yeah, this occurred because of the problem in the cerebrospinal fluid.
There was so much CSF which caused the brain to enlarge?
Yes, imagine a circle surrounded by an expandable ball.
Expandable? I thought the skull, which is the vault, can no longer expand.
Well, honey, remember that we are dealing with a child here. In babies, their fontanelles have not yet fused. So let's represent the skull as an expandable vault. The circle inside is divided into 3: blood, cerebrospinal fluid, and brain. If we increase the cerebrospinal fluid with an expandable skull, the skull will expand to accommodate this increase. Can you visualize it?
Very much. That explains the big head.
Yeah, increase in cerebrospinal fluid in hydrocephalus may have been caused by an obstruction in flow or abnormal production of cerebrospinal fluid.
Oh, does it only happen in children?
Good question. It can happen in adults. Let's change the expandable vault to a solid skull since in adults the fontanelles are already fused. If there's an increase in cerebrospinal fluid, the blood will adjust to this increase. This may compress the brain, increasing the pressure within the brain called the intracranial pressure.
Oh.
Surgery can be done to children to improve flow of cerebrospinal fluid.
But what happened to Lolo, Kuya?
An ischemic stroke, like what I told you earlier, is caused by a blocked artery. Remember, I told you about the brain's low tolerance to ischemia. A blocked artery can decrease the blood flow to the area it supplies. If it has already obstructed the artery totally, the part of the brain dies within minutes.
Oh, so maybe that's why Lolo fell and can no longer speak?
Yeah, maybe it's the part of the brain controlling for those which were affected. Cerebrovascular accident can also be of hemorrhagic type, where a blood vessel may have ruptured in the brain.
Is there still a chance for Lolo to be normal again?
I'm sorry, TP, but I don't think so. It actually depends on the severity of the brain damage the stroke has incurred. He may recover, but those areas of the brain which were affected may not be normal again.
Oh, thanks, Kuya. I'm so gonna be a brain doctor.
Neurologist.
Oh yeah, that's what I said, a neurologist.
Okay, little girl, so these are what we have learned today. You have learned the cerebral circulation and its regulation, the cerebrospinal fluid system, the Monroe-Kelly hypothesis, and the different brain diseases. Now, what you have to do is finish high school first.
No problem.
Let's go get food, I'm really hungry.